Okay, so when you think of the world's great aviation capitals, cities like Seattle probably pop into your head. But Europe has its own undisputed heavyweight, a city in southern France that has been shaping the history of flight for more than a century, Toulouse. So today we're going to dig into its incredible journey from just a bold idea to a global aerospace powerhouse. So how in the world did that happen? I mean, how did Toulouse, kind of nestled away from all the big industrial centers up north, become the absolute beating heart of European aviation, the home of legends like the Concorde, and, of course, the industrial giant that is Airbus? Well, it's a fantastic story of visionaries, heroes, and some seriously brilliant engineering. Now, you'd think the story would kick off with, an airplane. But nope, it actually starts with a word, a single, really common word today that was born right there in the Toulouse region, way before the Wright brothers even dreamed of taking flight. And that word? It's avion, the French term for airplane. It was actually coined way back in 1890 by an engineer named Clement Ader from a town just south of Toulouse. He was one of the earliest pioneers trying to build a powered flying machine. So, from the very beginning, the actual language, the dream of modern aviation, it was all rooted right here in this part of France. Okay, so that early dream, it didn't stay a dream for long. It quickly turned into a high-stakes, real-world business. And that brings us to the first great chapter in Toulouse's story, the legendary, almost mythical era of Aéropostale, the pioneering airmail service that literally created heroes. And it all kicks off with this one guy, a visionary industrialist named Pierre-Georges Latécoère. See, after World War I, most people still saw planes as tools of war. But Latécoère, he saw a future for civilian aircraft, and he believed their most vital use wasn't carrying people, but mail. So he set up his company in Toulouse, which was safely tucked away from the old front lines, and had plenty of space for new factories and airfields. Their ambition was, well, it was just audacious. It starts out simple enough in 1919 with a flight to Barcelona. But then, wow, within just a few years, these pilots are flying these primitive open cockpit planes down the treacherous coast of West Africa, and then making this insane leap across the massive South Atlantic. And the climax? It comes in 1930, when Jean Mermoz, one of their star pilots, actually conquers the Andes. They were pushing the absolute limits of what anyone thought was possible. You have to understand, these weren't just mail routes. They were epic life-or-death adventures. And one of those legendary pilots was a guy named Antoine de Saint-Exupéry, who you might know as the author of The Little Prince. His writing about flying for Aéropostale just captured the world's imagination, describing the incredible courage it took to navigate these hostile places with basically a compass and pure grit. All right, so then World War II happens, and Toulouse's industry is just shattered, pretty much destroyed by the conflict. But from those ashes rose a whole new era of ambition, culminating in one of the most iconic and beautiful aircraft ever built. This was a period of a genuine rebirth. The factories around Toulouse, many of them destroyed during the war, were rebuilt from the ground up. The engineering schools were suddenly filled with a whole new generation of talent, and France as a whole was determined to reclaim its spot at the forefront of aviation. And the evolution here is just staggering. First, in 1955, you get the Caravelle, this sleek, elegant jet that was a huge success and became a symbol of European recovery. But then, just 14 years later, you get the Concorde. And when that first prototype took off from Toulouse in 1969, it wasn't just an evolution, it was a flat-out revolution. It was this massive statement that Europe, and Toulouse specifically, could build the most advanced airliner in the world. And believe me, that statement was heard all over the world. Just look at this list of airlines that initially put in orders for the Concorde. Pan Am, TWA, Qantas, Japan Airlines. I mean, these weren't just any airlines. These were the absolute titans of the industry. Everybody wanted a piece of the supersonic future, and its industrial heart was beating right there in Toulouse. The sheer ambition of a project like Concorde, well, it really paved the way for an even bigger idea. To truly compete on a global scale, especially against the American giants, Europe's aerospace industry realized it had to unite. This was the dawn of a modern titan. You gotta remember, back in the late 60s, American companies like Boeing completely dominated the commercial airliner market. European nations, we're talking France, Germany, the UK, Spain, they knew they couldn't compete on their own. The only way forward was to pool their resources, their expertise, and their industrial strength. And so, in 1970, the Airbus consortium was born. The mission? Super clear. Build a new generation of airliners to challenge the status quo. And when it came time to pick a location for the most critical part, the final assembly line, the choice was obvious. With its deep history, its skilled workforce, and all that infrastructure, Toulouse became the industrial heart of this massive European project. What Airbus created was something totally new for manufacturing at this scale. Think of it less like a single factory and more like a global orchestra, where different parts of the plane were built in different countries by thousands of partners, and then all brought together for this grand finale. The process itself is just an incredible logistical ballet. You've got components coming in from all over the globe. Major sections, wings from the UK, fuselage parts from Germany, tailplanes from Spain, they all get shipped to a final assembly line, or a FAL. In hubs like Toulouse, these massive pieces are finally joined together. All the systems are integrated, and the aircraft takes its final shape before being tested and delivered. It's a masterpiece of global teamwork. So, that amazing legacy of innovation has transformed Toulouse into way more than just a place where they build planes. Today, it's a complete technology ecosystem, and it is constantly looking toward the future of flight. And this number really tells the story. A projected annual growth of 4.6% in the tech workforce, that's huge for a mature industry like this. It shows that aerospace here isn't some relic of the past. It's dynamic, it's growing, and it's creating thousands of high-skilled jobs, making Toulouse a critical economic engine. But what's really fascinating is who makes up that workforce now. Sure, traditional engineering is still the core, over half, but look at this. Nearly a quarter of the tech jobs are now in data and AI. Another 16% in cybersecurity. This shows the industry isn't just about bending metal anymore. It's about software, predictive analytics, and securing incredibly complex digital systems. And this success is really built on this tightly knit ecosystem. You've got the industrial giants like Airbus and Thales. They're like the trunk of a massive tree. The roots are the amazing talent pipeline coming from elite engineering schools like ISAE-SUPAERO and the National Research Labs. And the branches? A thriving network of incubators, all supporting the next wave of innovators. And the power of that ecosystem is so clear right here. Over 170, that's 170, deep tech startups founded by alum from just one of the city's top schools. That just reveals a culture where deep technical knowledge is actively encouraged to become entrepreneurial, making sure that cycle of innovation never, ever stops. So from those incredibly brave male pilots of Aéropostale all the way to the global symphony of Airbus, Toulouse's story has always been about one thing: looking up, pushing the boundaries of what's possible in the sky. So the big question is, as we look to the future, with challenges like sustainable aviation and space exploration, what will this incredible city dream up next?